are seeking relationship advice. You've been talking to a guy from work for about 2 weeks now. You say he's great, he's really almost too good to be true. He seems like a good fit, someone you'd like to pursue a relationship with. Your only concern is that you guys only text back and forth, and when you have attempted to arrange times to meet face to face, he's been evasive. You're also concerned about you working for the same organization, and you say because he outranks you organizationally. However, you guys do work in different buildings, so you're just wondering what to do about this relationship. And so I think this comes down to three different topics, which are identity, perception, and disclosure. Regarding the topic of identity, part of the reason you say you like him is that he seems thoughtful, and he does what he says he's going to do, and that you can tell he likes you because he initiates the text messages. And so I would just say to ask yourself, really, what can someone do via text message to show that they're thoughtful, or that they like you? It doesn't take a ton of effort to hold up one end of a text message. And so while he very well may like you and be thoughtful, it's very hard to tell so through simply text messages. And so you say that your guys' texts are fun and flirty, and it's easy to understand how you might think that that could translate to a fun and flirty relationship. But I would just first and foremost like to warn you of the difference between texting and face-to-face conversation. And so we're in the book Bridges Not Walls, a book about interpersonal communication. We read some of Irving Goffman's writing, and he says about the personal identity that everyone basically performs their identity for an audience, and they present themselves to people in a way that's intended to make themselves look good. And so when you're texting him, he is able to perform an identity much easier than he could in person, and so it's easy for him to make himself look good to you via text message, and so it might be a bit different when you're in person. So for that reason, you should reserve a bit of judgment until you guys are able to meet in person. And so second topic is perception, and you obviously perceive that he's a good fit for you. Perception is something that is a social and cognitive process. It's something where people assign meaning to sensory cues. It's a very sensory experience. And so until you guys meet in person, you will not be able to fully explore the process of perception. And so Nicole Ellison of Michigan State University studies self-disclosure in online dating. She writes in an article that online dating encourages a hyperactive imagination that can result in dashed hopes oftentimes. You have less information about someone, and therefore people have tendency to kind of fill in the gaps with things that they would like to believe. And so when you think that he's thoughtful and he really likes you, this could potentially be you filling in the gaps where you have a lack of information about him due to not meeting in person. All you have are text messages to go off of. And so last, when you talk about how he's evasive when you try to make plans and meet face to face, this sounds like an issue of disclosure. And so David W. Johnson also writes in our book about interpersonal communication that if you cannot reveal yourself, you cannot become close to others, and you cannot be valued by others for who you are. And through disclosure, we are able to build relationships, especially in the early stages of a relationship. Disclosure needs to be reciprocal. And so while you guys may be able to participate in a bit of disclosure via text message, full disclosure will not happen until you guys see each other in person, as seeing each other in person is part of the disclosure process. Part of disclosure can be visual. It can be things like body language, things that are not able to be transmitted via text messages. And so it sounds like potentially the reason he's avoiding meeting face-to-face, he may be hiding something. Maybe he's not the fun and flirty guy that he seems like in the text messages. Maybe he's a bit less confident. And so my advice to you would be to simply tone down your excitement a bit. Maybe do not get your hopes up too high, and just hang on to your judgment until you guys can meet to see if he's a good fit for a relationship. with you. However, clearly you are interested, so there's no reason to simply quit. I think one strategy you could use would be to give him an ultimatum. Maybe pick a time that you think is fair, maybe a month. You may even ask him what he thinks is a fair timetable. But when you set the ultimatum, you can say, if we do not hang out face to face by this time, then I will not be participating in the text message conversations that you guys are carrying on right now. And this puts the ball in his court, and if he wants to hang out with you face to face, it will be up to him if he wants to make the time. And lastly, the issue, the concern you have of your guys' work relationship, this shouldn't be a problem if you guys work in different buildings. If the relationship did get serious enough, you could always disclose it to human resources and you wouldn't have a problem.